Hey, what's up everybody? This is Osterberg501 and today I want to go over a video essentially theory crafting a build for the Devastator class in Outriders. Now before we get into the video, less than 5% of people that watch my videos are subscribed to my channel. So make sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with all of my uploads. Now, like I said, this is just going to be theory crafting a build. This is not going to be anywhere close to what a full build in the full release of the game would be. We only have a very small portion of the game to play in the demo. We only have half the abilities. We don't have access to a ton of the mods in the game. But with that being said, with some of the stuff that we have access to and some of the armor mods, there are some combinations specifically with the Devastator that seem like they could be an incredibly strong build once the full game is released and people start putting together builds. Now this is mainly going to be focused on the armor mods and what abilities we're modifying with those armor mods. We're not going to be going into the class skill tree, which can give a ton of passives. We're not going to be going into specific weapons or anything like that. Mainly just a basic overview of a potential build. And this build is mainly going to be focused on buffing up and augmenting the Reflect Bullets skill. And this seems to be one of the kind of signature abilities for the Devastator. It is incredibly strong once you start mixing some of these mods together and has a very unique effect that can even be very strong while playing with other players. And the base skill of Reflect Bullets is create a barrier that captures all enemy projectiles and accumulates damage. After 10 seconds of triggering the skill, which is how long the skill lasts, the accumulated damage is reflected back to enemies in front of you. Barrier also protects against basic melee attacks by reflecting some of the damage. If you haven't played the demo and played with this ability yet, it's essentially a see-through barrier that catches everything that's being shot at you, and then when it's over or when you reactivate it again, it reflects a bunch of damage back to pretty much any enemies that are in your sightline. But this skill works a lot differently when you start adding some of these armor mods that we're using into this skill, and can turn it into a skill that's mainly there to protect you and to do a little bit of damage at the end and blocking pretty much all damage coming to you, but also not allowing you to do anything, into a skill that essentially turns you into a very tanky death machine that allows you to just kill enemies around you while walking around. And the main armor mod that really augments this ability is called Auto Reflect. You can now fight while Reflect Bullets is active, but you cannot manually deactivate the skill, and it only negates 50% of the damage. Now what this doesn't explain is that it still reflects bullets, and it not only still reflects bullets and reflects damage, but you don't specifically have to be looking at things for it to reflect the damage. I'm not sure if this is just kind of a quirk of how the ability works, but you can actually kill things that you're not looking at. It seems to not do it as frequently as reflecting damage to enemies that are in your sightline, but it reflects a ton of damage constantly instead of just at the end, and it seems to reflect a lot more overall damage than the ability does baseline. And then next up, we have another incredibly strong armor mod for the Reflect Bullets ability that will heavily synergize with a bunch of other mods in the game. It doesn't right now because we don't have really any access to getting epic or legendary armor pieces for additional mods in the demo, but it's incredibly strong baseline and is going to synergize incredibly well with some other mods in the game. And this one is Blood Primer. All the reflected bullets now apply bleed. And with us having our already augmented Reflect Bullets, that is just essentially a shield on us that we can play normally and just have this shield reflecting bullets, pretty much everything in the area is going to get bleeds on them almost instantly. Because not only is this shield just reflecting bullets back to enemies, that enemy does not have to shoot to get a bullet reflected back at them. If one enemy shoots you with a bullet, that can reflect and hit a different enemy. This is why you'll see in some of the footage that some enemies just get absolutely destroyed instantly. It's because it's reflecting multiple bullets from multiple enemies to one singular enemy, and this causes really high bursts of damage at some point, and this causes pretty much every enemy in your sightline or around you to instantly get affected by the bleed status. Now the next two armor mods are essentially just damage increases for the Reflect Bullet skill. This one is a bullet acceleration, increases the damage of reflected bullets by 25. And this is actually a pretty big damage increase. I'm not sure how this is going to scale into more of the end game once we have the full release of the game. But at this level specifically, this massively increases the damage of the reflected bullets. And as you'll see, you're able to just clear entire rooms, even with elite enemies, with essentially just this one skill. And the next mod is the strongest first. The enemy with the most health takes 50% more damage from reflect bullets. And this is incredibly strong for killing elites and packs. And especially if you look at one of the best legendary farms in the demo, which is the captain farm, that captain, because that's an elite enemy and all the other ones are just small grunts, is going to be taking a ton more damage. Now I'm not 100% certain exactly how this works, because in my head there's two ways this could work. It's either the current health of every enemy and it constantly calculates who has the highest health to increase the damage to that enemy, or it's just the enemy that has the most total health and the current amount of health they have doesn't matter. It always goes off their current health. It will require some more testing to see which one, but it does seem like it goes off of the current health of the enemies and not their total health, because it does seem like at certain times that higher health enemies will just take much bigger hits than normal. But like I said, I'm not 100% certain on exactly how this one is working. And those are all the armor mods that I'm using that pertain to the Reflect Bullets skill. That does leave one armor piece that didn't have a Reflect Bullets mod on it. I just have a different mod that heals me off using Gravity Leap, so you could use that other slot for another Reflect Bullets mod that maybe I haven't gotten once we can change mods, or you could just use it as some other utility to synergize well with your overall build. And since our Reflect Bullet skill is now just essentially an ability we press and then play normally while it's up with, you can now use your weapons and some other abilities. And with how much damage this thing is currently doing in the demo, using a weapon that has a lot of health regen on it is something that seems to be the best way to synergize with this. Because with that mod, completely changes how the Reflect Bullets ability works, and now only reduces damage by 50% instead of catching everything and reducing it by 100%. And with all of these mods that we have synergizing, we want to be in front of as many enemies as we can and taking as many shots from those enemies as we can, because that's going to be reflecting more and more damage. So having a weapon like the shotgun that I'm using is going to be very good, because this has Essence Thief. Shots regenerate your health. And just with this, with a high damage weapon like this, I can be shooting enemies, getting a ton of health back, which then allows me to constantly stand in front of as many enemies as possible and take as much damage as I possibly can. Because essentially with this build, the more bullets that are being shot at you and hitting your shield, the more damage you're actually putting out. So this build is going to synergize very well with weapons that have either stats for lifesteal or mods for lifesteal. And that's pretty much all I want to go over with the theory crafting for this build. And like I said, it's not going to be a full build. Once we get into the full release of the game, we're going to have 5 armor slots, all with 2 possible mods once we get into epics and legendaries, which essentially will double the amount of augments and buffs we could possibly have for the Reflect Bullet skill. We're going to be getting weapons with more mods that can synergize well with this, synergize with that bleed, or give us other possible synergies. We're going to be having tier sets that could possibly have tier set bonuses with things that will affect this. And then we have our skill tree that will have 20 skill points when we're max level to put in to possibly have massive power effects for your build overall. So this is by no means some be all end all full build that you're going to be 100% using when the game comes out. But personally, this makes me want to play the Devastator as my first character I'm leveling up, just to try to make a build like this work. Pretty much turns the power fantasy of this Devastator into Walking Death, where you just pop your Reflect Bullets, walk around with a high lifesteal weapon, and just watch all enemies around you essentially kill themselves. So subscribe if you want to see more Outriders or other videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about this theorized build, and thanks for watching.